Almost live from Dallas, Texas. My name is r.p.berry. I'm sitting here in my free State Fair of Texas t-shirt, and I've run into some things that I must speak about because I'm going out of town this evening. But there's a man in the news right now, an amazing man from Texas. He helped inspire me years ago in the early 90s and the late 90s because his theory at that time was still being pursued. But his name is Jim Allison. He's a Texas boy, and he has discovered that if you do certain things to the immune system, that it can help attack cancer and other sicknesses. And because of his theories, they have discovered and helped prove r.p.berry, naturally, which most of biological science does so, but he, due to his work, has caused them to be able to understand that bacteria in the blood also cause markers to develop on the stem cells and on the white blood cells and the like, the macrophages. They call them merely sugars, but as we know, they are markers. And once they start manipulating these markers that are coding our stem cells and other things in the blood, because once they're removed from the blood, they no longer have these markers and they're allowed to live. They start losing these markers and they begin to live indefinitely. Stem cells do, but in the body, in the war, the cellular war, the eonic cellular war of all cells on earth against the eukaryotic cell of mankind, which we are a stem cell society. Mankind is a stem cell society. As science has proven, we are created and developed our brain from one stem cell. So we ourselves, most men can't realize this because they have the infection worse than others, but we are stem cells ourselves because we are made, our brain, everything is made from a single stem cell, which is now our character, our mind, all these things. But I wanted to mention Jim Allison because, as I say, he has helped me show everyone in the past that we have a pandemic plague that is inside the blood system and the body of mankind. There was a speaker at Radfest this weekend that everybody I hear speak verifies my word that we have a horrible disease and we haven't woke to it due to the ancient researchers of the beginning of this century and centuries before, I must call them ancient, of the past, that were wrong. But their conclusions to their own data and research was put in textbook as truth, as undeniable fact, and has now affected many generations, decade after decade, many generations of scientists and biologists. We have a horrible pandemic plague. The speaker, I tried to find his name this morning. My wife, how wonderful she is. She throws away everything I bring in the house because she wants to keep the house straight. But she threw away all my Radfest information. So I'm guessing, so I'm not going to speak the man's name. I remember maybe his first name, but I don't want to be wrong. So what I'm telling you is the man proved me conclusively and shows what is taking place in science today. He's an amazing man. He had an amazing accent. He was a fantastic speaker. He was just amazing, so knowledgeable, so well taught. He was taught by the ancient researchers, so well taught. But he began his lecture by mentioning the microbiome. He says we must be careful with the microbiome. We must be very careful with it, which science has proven that if we make sure there's a dominant strain in the gut that's not as a merciless killer as the other bacteria, that we can affect some diseases and we can affect our mood and everything else. Ancient researchers found bacteria in the gut and seen them making analogs seen them making epimers to our proteins and vitamins, and they wrote down that they were helping us so greatly, and they were a beautiful garden in our gut. But this speaker went on to say, he says, science now knows that we have a microbiome in our gut. Then he goes on to say that each one of our organs have their own individual microbiome, saying that certain bacteria enjoy, want to be in certain organs. So that is a beautiful garden in that one organ, whatever. And then he went on to say that the microbiome of the brain is very unique. Speaking of the bacteria in the brain, saying they're very unique and we must be very careful not to disturb them. I have kicked the ass of my microbiomes. I have stomped their butt. And I came back to life. I was dying. And I put an ass whooping on my microbiomes. And I suggest anyone else do the same. But this gentleman went on to say that we have the microbiomes and we need to take care of our bacteria. And it's just shocking to me. But, that I see it so often. It just blankets the body of biology. It's confused us. We are lost in a pandemic plague and nobody's able to look upon it. You can sit and talk to a man and suddenly he goes into Aubrey de Grey's Protrance of death. Now, part of this video, I want to teach you so you can see 100% truth when you look upon something, what you have to do to your body. Now, me, many years ago, and then recently in the 21st century, I decided to start fasting, even though it was dangerous for me. I'm a man who was electrocuted as a young man. I was dead and gone. I had to be revived. But since then, I've had a horrible weakness in my heart, yet I had to continue existing. So I've done many things to keep myself alive. But due to this, I started a procedural process of intermittent fasting. And this is long before it became a craze here in science. And then, like I said, I've done it in the 90s, but I didn't do it very greatly in the 90s. I was, I feared it. I was afraid of it, and with good cause, because in the 21st century, it weakened me very greatly. But I knew I had to clean my body to be able to see truth. But there's certain things you must do, and you must fast like a mighty man. You can't do it like there was people at Radfest that said, you must fast every week. And I said, well, that's very nice word, but you got to be careful. And I'm thinking he's talking about 2 or 3 days of not eating, just having water. And he says, well, you need to do like us. We fast every day. And I said, well, okay, that's interesting. And he said, from 7 o'clock at night, do not eat again till 7 o'clock the next morning. I said, well, hell, everybody does that. Naturally, they come home and they have food, they have supper, and if they work, they soon go to bed after that and they don't have anything else to eat. And they wake up in the morning, 7 o'clock or whatever, and they eat breakfast and go to work. So I thought, well, that's not really that good advice. He's a great man, the man that's saying this. I love the man. I've seen his work before, but there's things like that they don't understand, that they need to fast extremely. And they're absolutely correct. And see, when you're fasting, it proves me in my Derivify algorithm. Fasting proves me and my Derivify algorithm. Science has now proven when you fast that the stem cells not only stop dying, they start propagating. They start increasing in numbers. The immune system starts increasing in numbers. But here's the sad thing, you see, and proves my Derivify algorithm. Me, a man that can see truth when he opens a book. I seen when they was speaking on this, that's what that proves me conclusively, but we have to start eating or we will die. So we have to start bringing in energy sources. But then the stem cells stop propagating at the rate they were propagating during the fast, and then they start dying again, proving me, as I've told everyone, and as the great researchers Michael Conboy and Irina Conboy of now SIN's Foundation research, they proved me conclusively, because I've said for decades that the environment that our stem cells have to live in cause them to die and cause us to what? Age and die. Why is their environment poisonous? Because the stem cell has to live off the cells in the body. Oddly, the stem cells, if something, a cell is dying or is soon to die, the stem cell sometimes consumes them for energy, for an energy source to keep moving. And as we know in the laboratory, when growing stem cells, some use human skin cells or the like for stem cells to be grown upon, because they live off the refuge and the byproducts of the human cell. So, why do so many people have the protrance of death? Because they're so severely contaminated. Me at Radfest, and you would think some of these people, some of them very intelligent men, they do me like people done Dr. Aubrey de Grey for years. They done Aubrey de Grey like they do me. I'll walk up and they'll say, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm here for the Radfest because I found a cure for aging." And some of these people are there saying they found a trail that's going to lead us to a cure for aging. And you see, that's one of the parts too. All of a sudden they think, hey, if this man's the truth, this is going to destroy my book. This is going to crush my book. The only man's book I can't crush by accident, because I'm merely trying to speak the truth, is Dr. Aubrey de Grey's. Because Dr. Aubrey de Grey so brilliantly, when he first started attacking aging and death, he theorized and believed, and there were other men in that era and maybe even before, that theorized that the metabolic processes caused us to age. And Dr. Aubrey de Grey is absolutely correct. But what Dr. Aubrey de Grey didn't realize is the analogs, which are what's called vitamins by science now, that are made by bacteria, are in reality toxins, poisons, killers, chemical warfare going on between the microbes of the earth in the Eonic Cellular War, a book that I've been writing, and my other book, Adam and Eve, Now End Aging, is in the works, because I had all my data and everything thrown away a few years ago. I had the book maybe 2/3 complete, and all of my work was thrown away by accident by my wonderful son-in-law. He threw away all my data for 13 years. Damn near killed me. Over 13 years of data, even children's books that I was writing, that was, after a long day of watching death and how it works, I found myself needing a release. So I started writing children's books and movie treatments. And I even started writing a book about an event, a horrible event that took place in my life, to where I had to track down 3 murderers who had murdered hundreds of people by way of AIDS. And many of the people they murdered were people I cared about in my childhood, many of my childhood friends. So I became I guess you could call an epidemiologist, if my damaged jaw will allow me to say so. But due to Dr. Aubrey de Grey saying the metabolic processes are what causes us to age, he is a brilliant man, because he did it while what? That's what I try to convince these people that I get around. I say, you don't know how strong you are, my friend. You don't know how brilliant you are truly. If you would clean your body dramatically, you would be a genius in the line with Nikola Tesla or Max Planck or the amazing Isaac Newton. I tell them, I said, you're poisoned, but like I say at Radfest, I walk up and I say something like that to woman or men, woman, mankind, whoever's at the event. I tell them, I say, hey, I found a cure for aging. They get shocked and suddenly tell me that I am speaking the impossible. And I tell them, I said, what do you mean I'm speaking the impossible? Don't you have a book out? Aren't you saying in the news that you found a cure that you're soon to develop? and then their face will go blank, and they'll just turn around and walk off. But then the protrance of death with most people is the moment you mention death and you want to destroy death, they feel this tingling sensation because they can't get to the other hemisphere. Man, they can't get it to circle the brain. I have theorized that I believe the protrance of death, the poisons in our body, try to separate the hemispheres of the brain to where we can't even communicate with ourselves properly in our thoughts, to where we're trying to reason and our reason has been damaged due to the many toxins that many scientists try to call vitamins and such that are good for us. The NIH struggles each day researching these things, and I've read research papers from the NIH, many of them, and they will end their research saying, well, we don't know why these microbes are making so many byproducts of our vitamins and minerals, whatever, amino acid formulas that they say are good for us in the gut, but they just can't figure out what they're doing, why they're doing it, because they say, and they have proven, that we can live off our diet from nature. So they say we don't know why they're pumping out glycerol 3 phosphate, phosphate in the gut. They don't know why they're pumping out gamma amino butyric acids today long in the gut. They can't understand why they're pumping out vitamin K2s in many different formulas. Vitamin K2 through 14 formulas of vitamin K. They say the dominant vitamin K that sets up in the body is the bacterial vitamin Ks. We need vitamin K1 from nature. We don't need anything from E. coli. They know in every other instance, and as they prove with their probiotics, if E. coli gets dominance in the body, they destroy us, and then they go on to eat us, all the microbes. That is the goal of this gut garden, of this brain garden, of our liver garden, of our kidney garden. I mean, as this amazing researcher described, and I've sat and talked to them before, I've even had doctors get scared and get up when I start talking to them about the brain, having bacteria in the brain and are affecting their communication. They'll get up, get angry, and walk up. I had a female biologist demand that I apologize to bacteria. This is the strange mindset that is set up in science and biology. The woman continued to email me demanding, I want to see you now write me and tell me. She told me she was bawling. Told me how beautiful bacteria was. They were a beautiful garden in our body. This is the lost, total confusion of biology and science right now. Poor little baby was crying. She wasn't like 26, 27 years old. My son-in-law, God bless him, he threw away all my information over 13 years. I kept her name and her link. I promised myself, I said, I'm coming back for this little baby. She's been destroyed by her professors, and her professors were destroyed by their professors, and they were innocently doing so because they were teaching the information from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and those scientists were wrong. They were dealing with very crude instruments, and they made powerful conclusions for just one little thing they see. Now today you have men that are demanded to retract anything they can't reenact in a laboratory before witness. They are demanded to retract anything they can't prove day in, day out. Yet the body of biological science is ruled by men and women who were not demanded to retract anything. The moment a word came out of their mouth, it was taken as the gospel of science, as the total history and proof that science has now discovered why bacteria in our body, because they love us so much and they're in a symbiosis with us. It is ludicrous. It is absolutely ludicrous. But as I say, I'm now teaching you how to remove the protrance of death from your body to where you can look at information and say, death, I found you. Fast. Start slowly. And always from a fast, come back eating beef. Come back eating meat. Come back eating good food. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, russet potatoes, starch, whatever you want to call it. You got to immediately energize the body and the brain to strengthen the cells so when the attack begins again, they at least are receiving some good protein and such, which is infected. All of our foods are infected. We fast. Science has proven that everything starts getting better, but then naturally we know we got to have energy replaced. That as science itself has proven in their data, everything on earth is infected with the disease that causes us to age and die. When scientists speak of bacterial microbes, when scientists speak of any microbe on earth, fungi, whatever the hell you want to call it, molds, all these things, when they examine it, there's so many of them which Deuteromycota, which they've now reclassified in 2013, which I've written things on Deuteromycota in emails and such as that, so it doesn't blow me away and me say that, they've destroyed my writings, but it is frustrating too because they change science all the time. That complicates it. Find the truth and stay on that level. Like I say, our ancestors of the past in science, they lost us in their science, what we must call rhetoric, because it's not fact. It is not fact. It was wrong. They should have been made to retract it. So, to fast properly, try a one-day fast, only water. You have to force yourself through it. You're used to eating and your body's demanding it. Fast one day, then go 2 or 3 weeks, fast another one day, go a couple of weeks, then you got to get serious. All of a sudden you say, okay, I've got the mindset, I'm tough enough, I can do this. Then you go for a 3-day fast only on water. Only on water. So you fasted, you come off it, you eat beef. Come off, you have a nice big steak, you have a nice big baked potato, all these things to energize the body with some good beef protein, some good starches that many people claim you only to live on. There's gentlemen out there and they're proving themselves by getting in record books with their strength and they're living only on starches, but I don't recommend that because it's a temporary thing. But after the 3-day fast, you come back, you go another 3-4 weeks, a month. You may even want to go 2 months. Then suddenly you become bold and you do a 4-day fast, strictly water, nothing else, only water. Your stem cells are loving it, proven by science. But then when the battle starts again, the battle brought in by the foods, we have to bring in energy, but the foods we're eating have a disease. It's the same disease we have after eating the foods. It's truly, if we, which is part of my Gerivify algorithm, if we find the correct foods, and I found them, I've researched this in data, other people's data now for many years. If you eat the proper foods, this does not take place. They must be grown properly. We must heal our foods, even if they're the proper foods. So we must heal our foods first, then we eat them. But again, on the fast, you must become bold. You must become bold. Now here I recommend to most that you stop, and this is the most dramatic fast you do. After you've done a 4-day fast, you wait 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, 2 months, whatever the case, you'll know what your strength level is, because fasting does weaken the body. As we know, we have to bring in energy sources or we're weakened. But during this fast, your stem cells are propagating at a much higher rate. Your immune system is building at a much higher rate. You must become bold. After the 4-day fast, the next fast you do, you must do a 7-day fast. And like I say, I recommend to you, you never do more than a 7-day fast. And when you come back, you eat beef. You have your nice big steak. As I said, starches, sweet potato, whatever. You can have green beans, whatever the case may be. Just start getting some nutrients in your body. You can have grains. You can have wheat, such as this. I don't care about the gluten. I believe the gluten is something in wheat that was put there by a virus or something long ago in the genome of the wheat plant. So that's part of my Gerivify. I want to grow wheat and all things properly. I want to grow them at a different process. People ask me, well, what is your process? I said, well, think of Mendel. Think of the Mendel process, but it's not the Mendel process. It's my process. It's a brand new process, but it doesn't involve gene editing. It doesn't involve, separating the animals or the plants, whatever the case may be. It doesn't involve that. Truly, it involves curing these things, but you do so in the Gerivify process, which I don't tell everybody, but it's an amazing process because I'm trying to find investors right now. It's an amazing process. It will shock into reality a clean thinking human being, but a person that cannot think due to the protrance of death and what I call the quorum sensing of mankind, due to our body being filled with the neurotransmitters and the many amino acid formulas, which is why I named this disease we have. It's not aging. We have a pandemic plague. I've named it the Synsonic plague and or the Synesonic plague, due to the many amino acid formulas, onic, the many amino acid formulas made by the gut bacteria that enter our body. And yes, our brain, as this young, very brilliant scientist was bringing to our attention at RadFest, but what he didn't snap on is, do we need bacteria in our brain? Should bacteria be in our brain? Sounds like some sort of invasion to me. Science and every other animal, plant, every other environment of Earth, they will say that these microbes are fighting one another. Ladies and gentlemen, we are stem cell. We live in a stem cell society. Our mind, our brain, we are not a microbe. We are the mighty creator of life, the stem cell. That's odd, isn't it? I've had doctors, people, scientists get up and turn around and say, you're a goddamn religious person, man. No, I'm not a religious person. I went into science and I discovered that the stem cell is the great creator of life. And science has proven that we ourselves, our brain is built from a single stem cell. So I told him one day, and I kept that. I said, well, hell, that makes sense, truly. Now, a guy was arguing with me. He says, well, you're talking religion here. I said, what the hell you mean I'm talking religion, man? I said, you want to see the links? Go to my websites. I said, the stem cell designed us, created us, and we are a stem cell. Then finally it popped out of my mouth. I said, you could say, now that you want to talk about religion, you could say we're made in the likeness of the stem cell. We're the only creature that can create truly. Now we can create life. We are the only creature that is even close to the stem cell as far as in the realm of the life forms here on earth and us existing. The human being is amazing. We are made in the likeness of the stem cell. Take that, you pro-trans of death people. Take that, you people so quorum sensed that you can't see the truth for the infection, the inflammation in your body. Now, like I say, when you come back from these fasts to get rid of this pro-trans of death, and you'll be weak after the 7-day fast, you'll be weak for a while. I don't suggest you work out for a week or so after you come back. Don't work out during the fast. Never work out during this fast. Now, I fasted to get rid of my infection, to get rid of my disease. When I realized long ago we had a disease, when I entered the 21st century, that's when I said, I've got, because I had the truth, but I wanted to see all truth. I said, man, why can't I see this truth? I fasted. I used to do a 2-day fast. I'd get bold to do a 2-day fast in the 1990s, But I said, man, I've got to get more serious about this. I've got to clean my body. And here was an amazing thing that I'd done. I naturally cleaned my gallbladder. do it. I recommend to you to clean your gallbladder. It was the most, me, a sick and dying man. I told everybody at the time, I was, look out, I'm fasting and everything here. I said, but if I die, would you do me a favor and deliver all of my information to Baylor University? I said, if I die, because I contact Baylor and I told them, I want to get in your laboratory with you. I want to show you some things, but they were so contaminated with the protrance of death, they couldn't understand my conversation with them. They said, you're wrong. That's not what that does. I said, sir, our teachers in the past were wrong. Now, like I say, today, anyone that can't prove themselves conclusively time and time again in a laboratory, they will say, this is false. You must retract your paper. You must retract your book. You must retract your scientific data because you're wrong. If you can't prove it in a laboratory time and time again, and mind you, they'll say, well, can you prove this? I said, dude, it's proven in every laboratory on earth. I am proven day in, day out. I took my data from the empirical papers of Harvard, Princeton, Cambridge, the University of Melbourne in Australia. I would venture to say there's not a university on earth that I have not contacted and told them, please, sir, listen to me. I'm sick. I'm dying. I brought myself back finally to where I'm, to where I'm not dying. But I was in hard condition. But still, I fasted and I continued on. I said, okay, I'm alive. Let me do this. But I tell people, if I die, bring this information to Baylor University. But the cleaning of your gallbladder is a research project in itself. I was shocked. I was astounded by it. It was unbelievable. There was so much. What I must say, they say it is cholesterol, and I'm sure most of it is cholesterol, but it was such a fluorescent green coming out of my gallbladder and out of my body, a putrid looking fluorescent green, dark green, almost blue fluid that's been setting in your body, and that is part of the reason why we have the protrance of death. After I cleaned my gallbladder, man, it was just amazing. I was able to get up. I began working out again, and I messed up. I felt so good. I began to jog again. Everything. I said, here I am. I'm ready to take on the world. I said, come on, let's do this. And I overdid it, But my wife, God bless her, I used to jog with her all the time. And I thought, wow, thank you, science. Thank you, mighty stem cell. Thank you, stem cell, for giving me this strength back, But I overdid it because I had worked out real hard, and I went through a lot of training. I went back into boxing and everything. I thought, thank you, thank you, cleaning your gallbladder. I was just amazingly healthy after that. And then, it happened. I convinced myself to do another fast because my body becomes so strong. But I went past 7 days this time. I said, I'm going to see just how far I can go into fasting. And I went way too far. But it cleaned my body dramatically. But it affected my heart because my heart was damaged. As I say, when I was a young man, I struggled to live. My heart was so damaged for many years. But, I brought myself back in the 90s and I, a little bit. And me and my wife started working out, jogging. I got stronger then. But then I changed my diet. Somebody convinced me to become a vegetarian. And that's what damn near killed me. I was doing fine. I was eating meat. I was, fasting. I was working out and all these things. And then suddenly I became a vegetarian. And then when I fasted, I went into struggling again with my heart, and I became very sick. And I said, man, I guess, I shouldn't have become a vegetarian. And it's proven now because when I started back on the meat and stuff, you have to be horribly sick before you can realize something is helping you or hurting you. You have to be horribly sick. So I overdone myself because I realized that when I became a vegetarian, I did so with a damaged heart, and it nearly took me into death. But as sick as I was, and I got very sick, I started having serious problems because of my heart. And, I'd wake in the middle of the night and death was trying to take me at night. I couldn't even sleep at night because death, I'd wake up all during the night and I would jump out of bed, gasping for breath and pain in my chest. There was nights I rolled out of bed and the pain was so locking and severe in my chest that my heart was so struggling that sweat was oozing from my body. If you've never had heart trouble, you'll never experience such as that. But when I hit the floor, and I had wood floors at the time, me crawling towards the bathroom and my wife saying, "Should I call an ambulance?" And I told her, "No, don't do it. Don't call no ambulance." Because I've had doctors almost kill me in my life. So I decided to start, taking care of myself after the last doctor I went to almost destroyed me, and I had to overcome his treatments and medicines he was trying to give me. But I was crawling across the floor, and when I finally got up, I looked at the floor, and there was probably a quart or more of me just slimed across the floor. My clothes were soaked. I went over and touched my bed. My bed was soaked. Suddenly my legs and my arms were cramping up due to dehydration. So I kept around Pedialyte for kids in those days to make sure I got my electrolytes back as soon as possible. But the Protrance of death, the reason you cannot see that you've been accidentally duped by our ancestors is because you have a severe infection. Science has proven this. Science says that everyone has inflammation throughout their body, and that is the cause of so many maladies of the body is inflammation. And this inflammation is due to the bacteria and the infection they're causing us with the analogs that they say are vitamins that are good for us. And that was men decades ago. But now there are men in science that are proving that certain toxins made by bacteria help cause everything from autism to Alzheimer's disease to diabetes. They're teaching people now if you fast 1 or 2 days a week, if you can do so and you have diabetes, it will cause your sugar level to balance out. And then if you continue to do that, you will finally not have to use insulin anymore. But this Protrance of death, this quorum sensing of mankind, this brilliant man, Dr. Aubrey de Grey, that went immediately to the metabolitic processes was more than correct. And he's not to try to kill me. I've had people threaten my life if I put out my information. And then it turns out I would read up on these people, and it turns out they had books out that if my information makes its way to the public, they will be in ruins. Their work will be now dead and gone, void, seen as something that must be retracted. As they've told me. I've had people tell me, "You're going to retract this." I've had them do it on social media. Very educated men, some of them very well-known men. They tell me, you're gonna retract this. You ain't gonna say this no more, or I'm going to report you. They've even told me to report you to the authorities and the scientific body. I said, do it. I said, go for it, my friend. I need a little bit of workout. I said, come on, do it. I said, go to my website and prove me wrong. They said, what is the name of yours? That's what they used to do. Now they run from my websites. I send my website. I said, go to my website. You read my website, and you come back and point out to me where I'm wrong. And they never return. The last man that done that to me, he told me he was going to even Retract, what is it? It's Retract Magazine. Or I believe they have a magazine. It may just be a website. I forget. It's been quite a while back. I said, I tell you what, my friend, I never heard of these people. Guess what I'm fixing to do? He typed me back, what? I said, I'm fixing to contact Retract Magazine, and I'm going to send them to my website and see if they make a fool out of themselves and say I'm wrong. I contacted him, email, send him my links, everything else. I said, prove me wrong. Never heard from them. Never heard from them. They wouldn't even contact me back. First, I received an email from them. It's okay, we received your email. I said, okay, fantastic. So I sent them there. I said, come on, man. These people say that I'm wrong. Say that I need to be banned from science, from scientific data research. I'm a data researcher, solutions analyst. They told me that I should be banned from speaking. They never contacted me again. I know they went to my website because, as you know, all websites have indicators to show you who's contacted, especially Yahoo. Now, Gmail, Google, they don't give you real intricate information on who's contacted your websites, but Yahoo does. And I sent them to my Yahoo sites too, and there they were. So they went to my site. So Retract Magazine disappeared. I've had probably upwards of maybe 40, 50 people on social media in different places tell me I demand this. And like I say, I've been threatened. I've been threatened. Told me, you keep doing this, you ain't going to like what's happening. I had, I'm going to mention this man's name. I don't normally mention the people that give me crap, but he's such an ass, such a gigantic ass. And he thinks he is the only wise man on earth. He can only be, put together with our ancestors that sadly thought they were right. But P.Z. Myers. And I could throw in there, what's his name, Daryl Dawkins. They also. Some of them just because I wear a cross. And you notice I've been talking, I've talked some religion here. I researched the Bible after what? What did I research the Bible for? Why would a sick and dying man? I was in such dire straits one episode in my sickness, my heart, and other things. I was in such dire straits that I contacted a religious leader who's world-renowned and is a multi-millionaire, nearly a billionaire. I contacted him, Pat Robertson. I don't mind mentioning his name because he is a jackass. But what I did is I accidentally seen his show one day, and I seen some scientists on there, and then he showed one man was their scientific advisor that worked for them at CBN. And he was a scientist. I said, well, hell, man, I'm going to contact these religious people. I said, well, maybe they'll understand this here, And I contacted him. I said, sir, I'm a man dying. I've got very important information. I said, I got to get it to somebody. I've got to get somebody to receive this. Sir, I need to meet with your scientists and your doctors. They also have doctors there that are advisors, and they're also paid advisors there. I said, I need to meet with them before I die so I can now end death and aging. Okay? They hurried to me because he heard me say that I was dying, and he performed a miracle over me. Oh, I see your pimple on your butt. I'm going to cure it. Oh, you've got a wrinkle on your forehead. Bam, the wrinkle's gone. Now send me your gas money. Now send me your car payment. Oh, if you don't, God's going to burn you in hell. Jackasses. What was their response to me? They threatened my life. You see, if my work was to be ever published, it would destroy his writing. And I didn't ever think about that. I was, because even then I was saying, because like I said, I had that conversation with the people, and I didn't contact Pat Robertson till probably, it was just before 9/11. But I contacted him, and he threatened my life, and they got real serious. That man thinks he's the hitman of God. Like you heard him in the news, he threatened, what was his name? The man's dead now. Hugo Chavez, the president of Venezuela. He said he needed to be killed, needed to be a hitman sent down there to kill him. And he got real serious. I mean, he may have been the reason I'm alive. He was the last fool that threatened me, because when he threatened me, because I used to be a pretty tough kid, and I grew up into a pretty tough young man in my 20s and such, you know. I had people attack me in public, and I would send them home with an ass whooping, you know. But this man told me, if you ever write this again, you will feel sorry. You will feel sorry that you done this. How did I know he threatened my life real well? I received a flyer in the mail from a company that advertises on the CBN television program. And I open up the flyer, and there's a huge picture of James Joyce, the writer of Ulysses, but there was a hole in his head. They had cut a hole out of his head, and he had a hole in his head, like a huge bullet had went through his head or something, and he had a patch on his eye to where where he'd been beaten, everything else. And then they send this out to people, and they sent it out to me, and had that hole in the head. Said James Joyce thought he could change the world with his writing. James Joyce thought he could change the world with his writing. It was influential, his writing was, they said. I said, okay. Okay, look at me. I'm sick here and dying, and there's some men here that need a severe ass whooping. There's some men here that need their ass stomped. I stood up. I said, what am I going to do? What kind of health can I bring myself here? I said, what can I do? I was so angry. I said, you know what? I'm going to research the Bible. I researched the Bible. I couldn't read it at first, couldn't understand it at first. I read it. I read the Bible completely one time. I said, okay. I said, I didn't get anything out of that. I said, I'm going to read it again. I read it again, and, I got some things out of it. I received some information out of it. I said, okay. I said, man, I need to fast. As sick as I was, I needed to fast. I said, I fast a day or so. Well, I waited a week or so, and I ate some good food. Then I fast. That's what I try to do before a fast, is I ate some good food, and then I fast. I don't try to restrict my diet in any way. But after I was ready and I fasted and everything, I read the Bible this time, and I'd become so determined. I got tablets, and I wrote them out, and I wrote down, this is what I'm going to write down, anything I find in the book of, in Exodus, in Deuteronomy, in Numbers, in Isaiah, in Matthew, in Revelation. This time I'm researching this book, and I'm coming out of there to shame this man, and I'm going to blow him and his books out of the water. And I'm going to whoop his ass, I said. So in my fasting and me training, trying to get healthier, and like I say, this is around the year when I'd finally researched the Bible. All I can say is it was right around the time George Bush was elected. But I did indeed research the Bible, and I concentrated on it, and I found any niche I found in, I wrote it down, and then I made me a website of it. And then I put on, because he calls himself a messenger of God. And then Benny Hinn got in on it. Benny Hinn started contacting me, and he was insulting me. He was calling me Kip Berry. Kip Berry instead of Rodney Paul Berry. Then all of a sudden, I'm receiving letters from Pat Robertson where they changed my name, calling me Paul, then a big L in the middle, Berry, calling me Paul Loser Berry. I jumped in the middle of their back so powerfully. After I received that threat, okay, I thought I was ready. They think they're messengers from God. They believe they're prophets, all these things. I said, I can prophesy these men into the ground. I mean, you see people that have called themselves predictors in science, to where in reality they were just some of them. There is some really great thinkers, such as Ray Kurzweil, people like this that are great thinkers. But you see other men that say, I predicted this, and I predicted that. And then you read their paper and you say, well, they just exposed themselves right there in their writing. that they're close to a university and close friends with people that had been theorizing these things themselves, but they were predicting, they were predictors. But then these bastards in religion, the people that have slowed science now for centuries, I told them, I've made videos and sent to them. I made a video. I went in my backyard. An oak tree died in my backyard. My wife had planted an oak tree and it grew for a while, but the drought in Texas finally took its toll on it. And I went in my backyard and I chopped down, even though I was sick, I chopped down that. It was pretty small, really, but all I had was a saw and I hand sawed it. About destroyed my shoulder with that old saw I had. I didn't think about asking somebody if they had a skill saw or something. I was just so pissed, And I sawed it down and I made me a staff out of it because David, the mighty King David, said that the Lord's staff had comforted him. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me, said David. So I said, okay, I'm going to make me a staff. These people want to play like they're the prophets of old. They want to act like they're the Jesus Christ. I said, okay, let me get in here with them. I made that, cut it down. I carved as much bark off it I could, and I burnt the name of the prophets of the Bible. And I said, I'm going to shock these son bitches right out of their seats. I burnt these prophets I burnt God in there, and I burnt Adam and Eve on top of the staff, and I burnt poor Paul on the bottom of the staff because Paul wanted to look at himself as the smallest preacher, the smallest minister, as the smallest prophet. So I put Paul on the bottom of the staff, and then I made me a video. And I held up my staff, and I sent it to Pat Robertson, Benny Hinn, John Hagee threatened me. He told me on national television I was gonna be killed and found dead on national television. He lost control of himself, said it during one of his days he was preaching. I contacted them all, and I held up my oak staff I had made. I said, meet me in a field of honor. I said, you men ain't nothing but lying thieves. You're nothing but Pharisees. You see, I had researched the Bible. I said, you are nothing but a lying Pharisee. And I became very close to the Lord Jesus Christ truly at that time because I was having health, and that's when my wife seen me reading the Bible. She didn't understand I was reading it to destroy the preachers and the like. But I did become very close with Jesus that time. But I know Jesus today would be saying, motherfuckers, I'm coming to whoop your ass, like he did in the temple. Jesus loved everyone, showed them the love. But then when he went in the temple, he says, I know a man needs an ass whooping when I see it, so I went in there to whoop his ass. And that's what I told him. I said, you think Jesus gave the Pharisee of the old an ass whooping? I said, wait till I get through with you. And I said, let me tell you this, Pharisee. I said, you meet me in this field of honor. I feel I am so much the truth of science, and now I'm the truth of the Bible. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You meet me in a field just to show that you ain't shit. I'm going to cry out for fire from heaven. And I said, now I'm going to step over your burnt and smoldering carcasses. I told him, meet me in a field, you dog. These men had people watching my house. They were plotting. There's been people disappear in science that I believe now, because I'm a researcher, a data researcher, I believe now that they were in on some of these people disappearing around the earth that were murdered, scientists, because they're trying to stop science. On their shows, they'll try to act like they're we love science and all this stuff. But in the back rooms, they literally worship death. Because when I first contacted him, Pat Robertson mailed me a letter. I used to have a copy of it. I finally sent it, the last copy I had, because I made a bunch of copies of it and I messed up one day and sent the original out to someone. And after I realized I was shocked, but I still do have communication as evidence with me for Pat Robertson. I carry it with me on my person all the time. So if I'm ever which they're not ever going to kill me because they called me back. They called me, had people call me. Well, we know you've been trying to get in contact with us, and we want you to be a good Christian, and you please don't tell anybody anything like this, and please be nice. If you're not a Christian, if you don't forgive us. And did you hear what I just said? Gordon Robertson contacted me after I sent in the video that I sent them, telling them, meet me, badasses. I said, I'm not only going to whoop your ass, I'm going to call for you to be burnt. You think you can represent the Bible? Watch me represent the Bible, you lying bastards. And man, they went into shock. I told him, I said, I've also sent out this video, and I did. I said, I've also sent out this video to the Parliament in England, to the Parliament in Australia, with copies of your threats. I sent it to the American government. I sent it to senators, politicians. I sent it to one politician that's in their pocket in Texas who he joined in on the threats and trying to build evidence against me. And I started contacting him and I showed him the video. I said, you want to be in this mess? Join me. Never contacted me again. Never spoke anything bad about me again. But I felt so wonderful about that. And like I say, they contacted me back. Gordon Robertson himself kind of said, sir, you're not a good Christian. What in the shit? I made another video. I said, go look yourself in the mirror for me, would you? Do you have a mirror in your drawer? Because I know you primp every day for your shows. Do me a favor and look in the mirror. And I want you to think about the threats that you made to me. I want you to think about how you told me you would take a sick man's life. I said, do you understand in that letter I sent you that you were hearing the words of a man that said he feared he was going to die and he wanted to give you information to help you end aging and death? And they told me I had to surrender to death. Pat Robertson told me I had to surrender to death, as did Adam in the Garden of Eden. I told them, Adam surrendered to nobody or you wouldn't be alive today. Guess what was born? Guess what was born that day? When I read that letter, I said, I now start me a ministry to teach people the truth of the Bible. I said, I now start a ministry, and I named it Adam and Eve Seed Gathering Ministry. And on the front page, I tell them, I am a prophet of God, and he has sent me to destroy aging and death. And I found information in the Bible that discusses death. Jesus proclaimed that he come to stand against death and to give them immortal life. So I said to them, and I sent them to my page. I said, follow this website for me. They hacked me. They hacked me. They destroyed my websites. They destroyed my emails. They sent men after me in the beginning, like I said. But then I told them, go to my websites because I'm going to teach you idiots. You can't read a book for shit, and especially the Bible. I said, you are not only Pharisee, you are false prophets, and you've damaged the minds and lives of many people. And I now believe that you are killing people around the earth. I said, I'm not the first person you've threatened. And then later on, he proved that statement by threatening Hugo Chavez right there on his television station. But the sad thing is, all the parliaments I contacted sent the videos. I mailed them out in packages, man. I'm talking about I sent out many, many packages for years, actually. Sent them out to different people. Mel Gibson. I sent him out to, I seen it, I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to, because I seen him on the 700 company, I call it. I put it in there and I sent him a package. I said, that show you was on, that man you're saying you're old friends with and everything, I say, he's a murderer. I say, he's a goddamn murderer. No, Mel Gibson wussed out on me. But they went into terror. I tell you, I was telling you about Benny Hinn. I contacted him. I said, all of you meet me in the field. He was calling me Kit Berry. I said, meet me, and I'll blow you off stage with my godly powers. I said, you meet me on stage in front of millions of people, and I'll blow your ass right off the stage. And you see, they was terrified because every one of them have books. They've made millions upon millions where they say they're teaching people how to go to heaven. How to go to heaven. Oh, please let me go to heaven, Benny Hinn. Show me the way. Well, first you got to send me your gas money. First you got to send me your car payment. I've even seen them while watching. I wish I would have recorded it. Some of the other preachers in the world would say, if you only have money to go to the doctor, send it to us and we will pray for you. I said, oh my God, the arrogance of these bastards. I said, I thought I was finding stupidity in science. These men are blazing, murdering, lying, goddamn thieves, Excuse me for getting on that side. As you can see, it's a very, very dramatic subject for me. But I put them in their place. They no longer told me that if I wrote again, they told me, sent that paper out to me of a physical threat. I've got copies of it everywhere. I sent it around the world. And when they found that out, see, they're used to people going and hiding, Oh my God, the power of these men. I didn't know that they even was the devil themselves. Oh, the power. It's just, that's what they thought I was going to do. Because, I wrote in there, I said, sir, I am literally sick on my couch and dying. I said, I'm so bad off this time, sir. I have blood coming out of all orifice. And it was the truth. I had blood in the corner of my eyes coming out, my ears. I was spitting up blood coming out of my nose and other places I'd rather not describe. And I told him that in the letter. I said, sir, you must hurry. I said, I don't know if I'm going to live or die here. I've got to get this information out to somebody before I pass. And thank God they threatened me. That's what I said. You see, thank God that these so-called religious men threatened me because I got up and I was the most angry man on planet Earth. When I seen them filming me across the street from me, and I looked and I had some binoculars and I took them out real quick, and I looked and their license plate, on their license plate, said God. I said, uh-oh, I know who these people are. I grabbed my staff. I mean, it was near a comical. I thought about writing a comedy about this, I was in a fit of anger, and if I would have caught him, that would have been, one of us would have been in bad condition, very badly injured. But I ran out my door with my staff, and I pointed at him like that. I hopped in my car because I knew they was going to take off, and man, they did it. There was a woman and two men. They leaped back in that truck they was in. They done a donut in that parking lot, and they got out in the street. And by that time, I got out of my truck, and I didn't even wait to go down the alley. I drove over the curb, got after their ass, and I'm chasing them down through the middle of Mesquite, Texas. They finally stopped, and by this time, because I love women, and I'm a gentleman, to a real woman. There's some women that must be told, lady, you're wrong. But to a real woman, I'm respectful. And then I caught it. And then when and I brought my binoculars with me, I had them hanging on my shoulder. I was thinking, man, maybe I get in traffic and be stopped. I'll have to keep an eye on them. But I'm chasing them down the street. And when that woman jumped out and I seen her run towards the store, and I thought about it a minute, and I said, you know what? I think I've made my point here. I said, I don't want that woman hurt. I don't want, they may kill her. No telling how many witnesses they've killed of their own. And I thought about it. I said, well, okay, I've made my point. And they were in front of a grocery store. And I was thinking, well, I could go to a jail or something, because they're the great religious of the earth. And they have many religious lawyers on their payroll and stuff. And that's what they teach literally at their colleges, how to beat people by cheating at laws and such. But I made my point. But it was scary there for a while. I couldn't sleep, I would hear a noise in the night, and I would get up and I would grab. I don't believe in guns, but I would grab my sword. I started practicing with a sword because I didn't want any guns around my house. But I said, if anybody comes to my house to kill me and my family, they're going to find themselves missing either a head or some limbs. But it became very hairy there for a while because, like I say, I would be walking down the street. There was times, when it first started, I said, no, I don't want to go outside, man. They're liable to shoot me from a distance, And I said, no, I'm not going to fear these, dogs. I made me a weapon I used to use as a kid because I had some gangs after me when I was a kid, and they all had guns and knives. And like I say, even from a kid, I didn't want to carry guns. But when I was a kid, I bought a huge dog choke chain collar. I believe they're now illegal. But I had a huge choke chain, and I put a Yale lock on the end of it. And as a young man, I used to practice with it. Because, I had gangs after me. I couldn't go to school without being, attacked by 3 or 4 men at a time, or boys at a time, teenagers, whatever you want to call it. So when I got out my Yale lock and chain, they changed their attitude. I had a, well, not I'm on the subject. I had a man that just got out of prison that came after me when I was 14 years old because he heard that I had stood against some of their gang members, and he had went to prison for, taking out a man's eye and everything with a knife, and he felt he was a great swordsman, if you want to call it. But he came to my school, and he walked right into school and told everybody, "Where's this guy, Rodney Berry?" And I was 14. He was like 19, 20 years old, And he walked up to my classroom, and he looked in the classroom there, and he just kind of pointed at me. He told me he's doing like this. Bold, And he was half white, half Mexican guy, and he's a tall, skinny guy, and I wouldn't, I was out height by the man, everything. And he was pointing at me. And at recess, at the school, a break in class, I was 14 years old. They let us go out in the, the schoolyard during the class break, and he just walked right up on the class. But it just so happens I had my Yale lock with me. And people at school, I had a teacher one day said, "What is that?" I said, "That's my bicycle lock that I lock my bike up with, And I said, "Okay, that's no problem." And didn't have a bicycle. But anyway, he ripped out one of the biggest knives I've ever seen, And he said, "I'm here to kill you, man." I said, "Who are you?" He said, "My name's Ricky Cross, and you've messed with my boys. You messed with my boys, man." I said, "Oh, Lord." I said, "Okay." And he started for me, and I reached in my pocket, pulled out that chain, and I just started for him, Pop! I pop it, and I had to get real careful because I messed myself up a few times. I hadn't practiced with it in many years, but I messed myself up a couple of times, smacked myself in the head, nearly do myself in. But when I started for him with that thing, I said, "Let's do it, Billy Bad." That's what I started calling people in those days. Everybody thinks he's tough. I said, "Okay, come on, Billy Bad. Let's see what you can do. Come on, Billy Bad." And he started backing up. "I don't want to fight you like this. I want to fight you fair." I said, "Oh, now you want to be fair. Let's get the hell out of my schoolyard," and he left. But he came back with it had to be at least 30 or 40 people when school was out. I was saved by the principal. They surrounded me. And then 2 of them stepped out in the crowd and said they wanted to fight me. And I said, "Well, I thought we was wanting to be fair." I said, "So you want me to beat up both these guys to shame you, and then you're all going to attack me?" And, they say, "You can't beat nobody," all this went on like that. Then the principal comes around. I'm sorry I got on the story, but it's a dramatic story from my past, and it's how I protected myself in my home and, stood against these fools. But after the principal told us all to get off the school grounds, I was, uh-oh, there goes my protection. Then, wonderfully, a beautiful Hispanic young boy that I'd met, and me and him had become, like they say about, who was it? Daniel and I forget the name of the gentleman in the book of Daniel, said they'd become love, and people tried to say they were gay. But me and this young boy, and he was a ladies' man. He was such a handsome young man. He brought the ladies to us, He was just so amazing. And the most shocking thing I had ever seen in my life, I've seen my brother do this for me. My poor brother died with scars all over his body protecting me. But Roy Perez, a mighty man. I couldn't believe it. He's seen all this going on, and he went and got a baseball bat. And we'd only known each other a few months. And we had locked on to each other that greatly. And you notice it almost brings me to tears because Roy's dead. He was murdered. But we started walking down the street, and all of a sudden I told us, man, I'm going home. And they said, no, you're not. You're going down to Ricky Cross's sister's house, and you're going to fight Ricky at his sister's house. I said, no, I'm not. And I'm trying to go through the crowd. And, there was people in that crowd. All of them had weapons and stuff. And I'm trying, and they said, do it now. We're going to bust you up now. I said, okay, it's one of those situations, I guess, And they walked me down to Ricky Cross's house, and there was Ricky in the yard, and he had that knife. The leader. Pat Robertson. Benny Sin, I call him. Now I write Benny, and I call him Benny Sin. But there was Pat Robertson in the front yard waving that knife again. I said, what the heck? I ripped out my choke chain. I said, let's do it, babe. You got the nerve now, huh? And then he looks at them and he says, I don't want to fight like this. He was basically saying, take away his choke chain. But there was Roy Perez, and when he showed up, calm went over my body. I was amazed. He come walking around there and he had that bat. I said, what in the heck? He said, Rodney, I seen this shit. He said, let's do it, Rodney. I said, oh my God, I've got a friend. I said, oh my God, I've got a friend. Anyway, Ricky Cross put down his knife. I handed Roy my choke chain. I said, hold this for me, Roy. Ricky stepped down, went like this, and I hit that dude. When I did, he dropped. And he popped back up, and he dove on me. And he did get me down, and the scars finally went away. But when he got me down, he was on top of me, and I got him in a headlock. And I'm choking him down like this here. And he starts biting my chest, and blood's rolling down my chest from him biting me. And I just kept choking. Then all of a sudden he says, okay, let me go. You're killing me. And I just kept choking. And then finally I said, no, I'm not killing him. And then I let him go, and I pushed him off me, and I got up, and I backed over there with Roy Perez. I said, any other Billy Bads in the crowd here? And they were all looking at us. And they said, get out of here, man. We'll get you later. And me and Roy backed off, and we walked down the street. And I love Roy to this day. Well, excuse me for getting on that. I meant just to talk about the Protrance of death, but we got on the subject of these people that want to control science, and I believe they have killed scientists. And I even found an article of proof called the 88 Dead Scientists that were murdered over the last, I believe they quit tracking it and wrote the article and book about it. It was either in 2004 or beyond, and they did that, but I silenced them. Now they fear me. They fear me greatly. They won't come near me. They fear me. I put the fear of, let's say, God in their ass. My name is Rodney Berry. Please, I understand. I'm teaching you how to see all truth by fighting the protrance of death, which is caused by the many gut jungles and the jungles of our brain, the jungles of our liver and organs, to where I have now pointed out in data that is the cause of Aubrey de Grey's protrance of death, and what I've called for 13 years now, the quorum sensing of mankind with the poisons of bacteria. Please join me. I need partners and investors. My name is Rodney Berry. Have a good day. Have a good week. I'm going out of town to be with my children. Much love and respect. Have a good day.